When talking cryptids, there are thousands of animals that live in all parts of the world. Lake monsters, wild beasts of the forests and jungles, to living dinosaurs and creatures said to have been brought here from other worlds. Myth and legend grow out of rare and often brief human interactions with these monsters. Sometimes the legend they create grows so big Hollywood comes a-calling. On other rarer occasions, it's the other way around. With this in mind, let's look at the idea of water-dwelling humanoids and ask the question, did a popular movie inspire tales of a real-life cryptid in the Canadian lakes of Vancouver? Let's take a look. Welcome to IF, videos on history, mystery and the strange. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video again. This creature is part of movie monster royalty and recently received an update coming in the form of the 2017 film The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro. You have probably guessed that I'm not talking about the Wolfman, Dracula or the Mummy. The creature that has leapt from the silver screen and into the waters of the Great White North is the scaled humanoid of the deep, the creature from the Black Lagoon. The monster first appeared in a film from Universal International back in 1954, played by two men, Ben Chapman on land and by Rico Browning underwater. The film premiered in Detroit on February 12, 1954 and opened to rave reviews. It was part of the 3D movie craze that was so popular. 3 more films were made that tied back to this original release. The movie's plot tells the story of a geology expedition in the Amazon. They find a skeletal hand with webbed fingers, a missing link between the animals that walk on land and those that cruise the deep. The story moves on and a group of characters manage to put together a team to hunt down the rest of the mysterious remains. The film continues as the group search for the fossil until they come upon the Black Lagoon. Unbeknown to the party of adventurers, their movements have been closely watched by a creature that resides in the lagoon. And this is where we meet the creature from the Black Lagoon, whose real name is Gill-Man, a moniker bestowed upon the creature due to its ability to breathe underwater. Anyway, the film goes on much in the same way as all these movies do. Beast sees girl, Beast falls in love with girl, Beast is killed by men, and everyone goes home happily ever after with a story to tell. Except with this film, things take a bit of a weird turn, as not only did the Gill-Man become a popular figure in Western culture, often appearing in other forms of media and being a favourite creature to dress as for Halloween, the Gill-Man was spotted swimming in the frigid waters of the Thetis Lake. Thetis Lake is a name of 2 freshwater lakes connected by a narrow culvert in the 834-hectare Thetis Lake Regional Park outside of Victoria, British Columbia. It was Canada's first nature sanctuary, being founded in 1958, just 4 short years after the film's release. It would be another 14 years until a pair of boys saw an animal that closely resembled the Gill-Man of movie fame. First being encountered by 2 teenage boys in 1972. A police investigation sprung up from this strange encounter. An officer took the statements of the 2 boys and said he believed that they were sincere in their claims. Their claims seemed to be supported when 2 men came forward 4 short days later, claiming to have seen the same cryptid, this time on the opposite side of the lake. The monster was described as being an aquatic reptilian humanoid standing at 5 feet or 1.5 meters tall, and resembled a human lizard with a large head and was covered in barbed spikes, this description being very similar to the Hollywood monster. On August 26, 1972, a man reported that his pet tegu lizard, an aggressive lizard that can grow 4 feet long, had escaped and that he was searching for it. The police concluded that what had been seen by the witnesses was the escaped reptile, and they closed their investigation, giving the official statement that the lizard man was the missing pet. That is not the end of the story, however, as many locals still believe that the Thetis Lake lizard man was an as of yet to be identified creature and that he still lives in the lake. Another problem with this story is that 2 of the 4 witnesses claimed that their sightings were simple hoaxes. All they wanted was some attention from this whole ordeal. Maybe the opposite is true. they got a little more attention from telling their story than they had first bargained for. Maybe ridicule and constant questioning over the incident saw them change their story as to regain some peace and not have their lives taken over by retelling or defending themselves from those that claimed the story to be a hoax. It's something which happens often when people see things that do not fit with the ordinary. But let's get back to the creature. Let's say this is a real animal or humanoid. Being a humanoid, it would have to have a level of reasonable intelligence. Maybe it has been purposely staying hidden. Maybe after realizing it had been spotted, it made its way to a more isolated body of water. In Del Toro's The Shape of Water, the Gill-Man is highly intelligent. Not only is he smart, he can also cure wounds and turn back the effects of aging. These abilities are what had the locals who lived along the banks of the South American river in which the amphibian man was captured, worshipping the creature as a god. This, it turns out, is not far from the truth. As with many legendary creatures, there are many stories across the planet of beasts which are so similar, it could be argued that they are the same thing, just known by different names. With the Thetis leg monster, the same idea rings true. So, which other cryptid water-dwelling humanoids could be the same as or related to the Canadian monster? The Frogman immediately springs to mind, but I've already investigated him, link above. Let's look at a few of the other water-dwelling humanoids that could be likened to the Gill-Man. Like in the movies, the indigenous people of the Amazon rainforest do really believe in an aquatic creature named Yakuruna. They describe people that live in underwater cities who are a reflection of human life on land. Their palaces are said to be made of crystal and decorated with shining pearls and fish scales. The Yakuruna are said to ride on the backs of snakes, crocodiles and turtles. A Yakuruna resembles a human except the head and hands and feet are on backward. Others claim that these humanoids simply have webbed hands and feet and green skin. Legends said that if a human was ever captured by a Yakuruna, they would begin to transform into one, just like in the movie, starting with their eyes rolling back, and a shaman would need to be called to reverse the curse before it was too late. Some believe that the Yakuruna were an advanced civilization and that they were the source of the shaman's medical knowledge. This seems to be the creature that Del Toro based his movie monster on. Let's step away from South America and look at a Slavic legend. The Vodyanoi is said to be a guardian spirit of the water. Described as a wise old man, he can control all types of aquatic creature, an ability shared with DC's Aquaman. If local people treat the water with respect, he will reward them with bountiful catches of fish to eat and valuable pearls to trade. If they don't, well, I guess you can figure out that the water would not be so providing. The Vodyanoi has a body that is human-like with webbed hands, but he has a head that is somewhat frog-like, albeit with a human nose. It has a beard that is said to drip with algae and slime. The creature is said to be a shapeshifter. Once it leaves the water, it can change into a man. Oddly, the only detail that would give it away is that the Vodyanoi's left butt cheek would constantly be dripping water. From dripping butt cheeks to probably one of the oldest legends of aquatic humanoids, one that still has influence today, and that is the legend of the Oans. Originating in Mesopotamian mythology, they were said to be an amphibious race who taught mankind its wisdom. Oans are described by the Babylonian priest Berusus as having the form of a fish, but with the head of a man under his fish's head, and under his fish's tail, the feet of a man, the form of a fish but with the head of a man under his fish's head, being something to keep in mind as we still see that imagery today, but more on that in a bit. In the daytime, they came up to the seashore of the Persian Gulf and instructed mankind in writing, the arts, and the sciences. Oans were considered the emissary of air, god of the freshwater deep, and of wisdom. These gifts to humanity are still celebrated today, and the Oans are said to still be the focus of worship. This worship of ancient fish gods being hidden in plain sight in the Catholic Church ceremonies. Christian lore is filled with stories of fish and fishmen, and many say that if you look closely, you can still see them in today's religious practices. The mitres worn by the priests, a reflection of the fish-headed men, The Bible tells of the Tower of Babel, a building said to have been constructed with the help of the Oans. But now we are straying away from cryptozoology and getting into the realms of religious history. Maybe that's a video for another time. Back to cryptids. What do you think these water-dwelling humanoids could be? Which is your favourite? And do you believe the likes of mermaids or the many other cryptozoological creatures of the deep truly do exist? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.